Bold faith, real truth, no apologies. Stand your ground, say what you see. Elsa and Clay bring the truth out loud. No backing down, no bowing out. Turn it up, let freedom roll. This is the Elsa Kurt Show.
I'm sorry, I'm already laughing because Clay was starting to tell me something just before I clicked that button and he got cut off. So now it's a mystery. I can't wait to find out what it was.
So thanks, folks, for joining us. As you can see, the new intro to the show that Elsa has come up with, and she's been asking me for 2 weeks now for a couple of photos that my life has been crazy. It's the end of the holidays, kids back to college, all those things. And I just realized as you hit play that I still have not gotten you the photos.
That's what it was.
So that was my reaction. I apologize. But thanks for joining us, folks.
Funny. Yes, thank you guys. And thank you to my guest, Clay Novak, for joining me today. What the heck? What is wrong with people? What is going on, Clay? Clay, you've been like my guest for like nearly 3 years now. So guys, Clay Novak is not my guest. I feel like it should be obvious in the show title, The Elsa Kurt Show with Clay Novak. It's what plays every single week. Every single week, this guy is right across the screen from me. I'm pointing the wrong way because everything is backwards for me on here. He's not a guest. He's my co-host, guys. Come on now. And if you're wondering, I got to add more, Clay. I'm sorry. Let me just add this in real quickly because it really gets under my skin. Nothing ever bothers me for me. I got to tell you that. Like, I don't care. And I know you're the same way about yourself. You don't care. But I'm highly defensive about the people in my life. And so it really irks the daylights out of me when some tool in the comments section says, who is this guy? And who does he think he is? Dude, click on his name. Click on his name, go to his website. You want to know who he is? You're going to find out who he is. So shut up, do the work of just answering your own question. Okay, I'm done. Go ahead, Clay.
For a little context, folks, Elsa and I, and we've got a new little bit at the end of the show, which we're gonna talk about some comments from the show prior from our viewers and listeners. And one thing that Elsa and I were just talking about that constantly comes up is people ask who I am I a guest? Where did I come from? And who do I think I am? And again, I've been co-hosting the show with Elsa for over a year, almost a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, I think we're at 2 years now. Past 2 years now.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can't keep track of time.
Listen, folks, I'm out there. I got a website. I've written some books. If you want to know who I am, all you got to do is Google it and you'll find out.
Yeah.
But it is inevitable that pretty much every week somebody goes, who is this guy? And I always laugh. I think it's funny.
I think, you know what it is? I think like people have this expectation that everybody, not just us, that everybody fits in these tidy little boxes and you do this one thing. Like I still get comments. I get comments pretty probably daily on what happened to the Kamala cackle. How come you're not doing Kamala anymore? Well, first of all, she's not relevant anymore. She's like, if I kept doing it all the time, if that was my only thing, people would be like, we're so tired of seeing that. Stop.
Yep.
So, I get it. You can't please everyone, but it's like, here's the thing. Every single one of us, at least I hope every single one of us is multifaceted. Like we can do many, many things. And, you do the author thing, you do commentary, you do the podcast, you do, all of these other things. You're a speaker, you do all of these other things. I as well. I write books. I create different types of content. I do some solo podcasts. I do my Christian faith stuff. Like, it's okay to do many things. Oh, geesh. Oh my goodness. All right. Am I done ranting? I think I'm done.
I think
ranting.
so.
I think so. All right. We can get down to business. We're going to get right down to business. We are going to talk right about President Trump's plans to, just to take ownership of Greenland. And people are like losing their minds over it. Of course, Greenland included, I think, right? I think everybody is treating this as like it's just some silly thing that he feels like doing randomly. And that's not the case at all. And I want you to speak on this a little more because you can speak way more intelligently on this than I can. So please.
Yeah. So welcome to day 365 of Trump's. It's been a year, right?
Yeah.
And So I'm still trying to figure out where all of the women in the Handmaid's Tale costumes are, where all the African Americans being put back into slavery are, where all of the trans people being, murdered in the streets, like all of those things that were predicted. Remember that before the election?
I remember it very well.
Again, none of that has happened, as all of us rational human beings knew they would not. But here's where we are 365 days later, and the irrationality continues, and this Greenland thing is a prime example. So Greenland itself, folks, strategically, and I say that strategically, militarily, is of great importance. This is not new news. Okay, before World War II, before World War I, the United States was trying to made efforts to acquire Greenland. Post World War II, same thing happened. We realized, in being demonstrated by the Nazi Navy throughout the Atlantic, that Greenland had great geographic importance in deterrence with the Soviet Union through the Cold War. Again, great importance. It has only, quote unquote, lost its value in the post-Cold War era. And it hasn't. It just appears to have, because the United States hasn't determined or hasn't put a thumbtack in our greatest threat like it was so clear during the Soviet Union. Greenland is still important. It is the best land bridge connector between North America and Europe. It controls or helps to control the North Atlantic. And President Trump realizes that it is of great importance, and that we, the United States, have essentially let our presence lapse. There's an Air Force base there, which is essentially dwindled down to nothing. We have very little or no communications capabilities, which we used to have. None of those things exist. Oh, by the way, there's also not a NATO presence there. So as NATO, with the United States as a component, has agreed to this, partnered security, no one is using Greenland. And no one is securing Greenland. No one is protecting Greenland. And here's why that matters, is because no one currently controls the North Atlantic. We have presence there. We have ships there. So do the Russians. So does, a number of other nations. Greenland provides security, and the United States sees that as a strategic imperative. And that's why President Trump has, and it's not sudden. He tried to do this in his last administration. He brought this up.
Right.
But we need to have a presence there. And when I say we, it is the United States as a member of NATO. What President Trump hasn't seen is any reaction, any effort, anything from NATO to support presence in Greenland. Now he is forcing the issue. Personally, folks, I don't think President Trump has ever had any desire to own Greenland, and certainly not take it by force, which he said today in Davos, Switzerland, at the World Economic Forum. He said we wouldn't use force to take it. He never intended to use force to take it. But
of course, they're all trying to make it sound like he's.
Oh, of course.
Now he's going to start another war.
Yeah, what he's trying to do is force NATO to do their job, which is the collective defense of the NATO partners, which includes the United States. And of course, when he said, "Hey, I want Greenland. I want to be a part of what happened," there was an immediate reaction by all of NATO. Now, it was joking in the reaction. I mean, we're talking less than 150 troops deployed there, 6 different nations total. But he saw a response. And so in my opinion, what needs to happen is there needs to be a international, but probably US run port that is in constant use in Greenland. I think there needs to be at least 2 functional air bases with fighter, bomber, and drone capability. I think it probably wouldn't hurt to forward deploy a US brigade of combat power, into Greenland, very much like we have in Korea right now, in a rotation, just to have them present. Now, could it be shared with NATO? Sure. Should it be shared with NATO? Probably. But there has to be something there, because right now it is devoid of any protective, capability for the U.S. or for NATO. And really, what he's worried about too is, yes, there are natural resources there, and what has happened in Africa when we collectively haven't paid attention to what China is doing. They went in and bought the place. They went in and bought most of Africa, most of the continent, mining rights for natural resources and all sorts of things. He's worried that there's potential for them to at least explore the same thing in Greenland. He doesn't want that. None of us should want that. So this is all activity by President Trump to stir focus on the importance of Greenland, which has never changed. Again, this is pre-World War II. We knew it was important. Post-World War II, during the whole Cold War, we knew it was important. And we've essentially walked away from it in the last, since 1989, since the wall fell. And he realizes it hasn't lost any importance, that it needs to have some focus. And that's what he's doing.
And it's just, further proof of the derangement, the Trump derangement syndrome going on, that the media, of course, and the Democrats would have the people believe that this is just President Trump, trying to stroke his ego, put another feather in his cap. Maybe he wants to put Trump igloos there or something, this is how they're portraying it, when the higher ups, and I'm talking about the Democrats and the media, they know better. But they also know that if they stir up the people who don't know any better, who just, base their entire political understanding, geopolitical understanding on sound bites, that they're going to run with that. They're like, oh, he just wants to buy it just because he wants to own it. That's, clearly not the case at all, which anyone with any intellect should automatically know that. And the first question really should be, and that's, just another way to tell how far we've gone and how bad that TDS really is that, no one is capable, or these people are incapable of taking that pause for thought to say, well, wait a minute, what would be the reason for that? Like, just simply ask the question, because you can find the answer really easily. Like, it took me 5 minutes at best, and I think I'm exaggerating. It was like 2 seconds to find out the why of why he would do this. So now so some things I don't quite maybe necessarily understand fully. So the resistance isn't anything to do with about U.S. presence there. It's about Trump buying Greenland. That is the only drama here that they're making, which my guess would be that was probably, like, based on what you're saying, pretty deliberate from Trump, let's make this a big, massive deal. Let's take him in this direction so that we can, correct this course here in a way that makes it look like, they think I'm compromising or giving up something when he never wanted it to begin with, in that way.
And I looked back since a year ago, January of 2025, I found, I think, 5 different surveys that are being quoted out there. People surveyed in Denmark, people surveyed in Greenland, people surveyed in the United States, people surveyed even in Canada. Actually, I think total number across all those, I think I found 7 in the last year. And listen, there is polling data from each one of those that would support whatever argument you want to make. Okay. You can find data that says that Danish people don't care. You can find polling data that says that people from Greenland would love to be a part of the United States. You can find it that say they don't want anything to do with the United States. There's polling data out there that says they don't want to be a part of either one. In fact, there's a significant Inuit, native Greenlander, sense out there that they would rather be aligned with the Inuit nations in Canada and Alaska than they would with either United States or Denmark. So there's tons of polling data out there that can support whatever argument you want to make. But I really do think, especially when President Trump starts putting dollar signs on things, when he says, here's our offer, or I would offer X amount of dollars, billions of dollars, plus I would offer, X amount of dollars to the people of Greenland, that makes it very, very real. When he, the businessman, President Trump, starts putting dollar amounts on things, people start taking him seriously. Oh, by the way, that's why he was speaking at the World Economic Forum and not at the United Nations about this, or at NATO about this, because he knows the emphasis on the economics is going to gain more attention. The last thing that I'm going to say about this strategically is, and I'll play a little bit of a game with you, there are plenty of people out there who have been saying the United States needs to get involved in Ukraine. Why? Because they're afraid that Putin is going to, if we let him take this, right, then he is going to keep going and he's going to take over Europe. So clearly Putin is a threat, right? That's why we, as a part of NATO, need to get involved in Ukraine, is to stop Putin. So if Putin is really a threat, then why is the United States not getting involved in Greenland? Because, oh, by the way, the Russian Navy moves through the Northern Atlantic all the time. but people don't want that. The same people who are screaming about us, trying to acquire Greenland or getting involved in Greenland are the same people screaming for us to get involved in Ukraine for the, not understanding the strategic connectivity between the two, between the importance of Greenland and the assumed importance in stopping Putin in Ukraine. So you've got, again, it goes back to TDS. People are going to complain about everything that President Trump does, whether they understand it or not, solely because it's something that President Trump does. Yeah. I believe that we should be involved in Greenland. I don't think that we will or should attempt to purchase it. But I know that President Trump is doing that, or my personal opinion is he's doing that to gain attention by NATO to actually do something to present a presence in Greenland that's a deterrent to both China and Russia.
I fully expect he will achieve his goal, his actual goal, and not the one he's messing with everyone's head over. Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that what he wants to happen will happen. He's already proven many times over now that he is a man of his word and he's a man of action. So it'll happen. Get ready for it.
I guess his speech at the World Economic Forum lasted a couple of hours today. He talked for an entire hour before he ever mentioned Greenland.
Wow.
And when he brought it up, he said, hey, do you want me to talk about Greenland? And there's actually somebody who yelled from the audience, yes, and started talking about it. But there was great applause when he walked into the auditorium when it first started. When he was introduced, there was a massive response from everybody in there because they understand his impact on global economy. And then, things got a little tense when they brought up Greenland. And some people walked out saying, we don't know if we should take him seriously or not, which again is something that I think he wants. He wants people to not know what he's thinking next. And so mission accomplished for President Trump. As you.
Yep, absolutely. Go Trump, go. I love it. I'm enjoying it. Keep it going. Let's see. All right. I almost don't even want to, because I know my blood pressure will instantly skyrocket.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just spoke for a segment on Greenland. I'm going to sit back and let Elsa talk on this particular topic.
Yeah. I literally.
Church in Minneapolis, or was it in St. Paul? I know it's in the Twin
Cities. St. Paul. Yeah.
That was, for lack of a better term, accosted by anti-ICE protesters. Okay, Elsa, go.
You really want to unleash me?
Oh, yeah.
It's well, listen, I'm laughing right now because that's, nothing should be more scary than a angry woman who's laughing. Like, really, and any man with a wife or a girlfriend knows that that's true, because if the calmer and more we smile when we tell you that we're angry and we're smiling, it's bad. So this was probably one of the lowest of the lows, a despicable, disgusting act disguised as activism and as, truth and all of this nonsense garbage. And they picked the wrong place. They picked the wrong everything. And of course, right in the middle of it all is that raging idiot, Don Lemon, who the very sight of him just makes me so unchristian. Really, honestly, it does. So if you don't know, anti-ICE agitators from groups like Black Lives Matter, which, by the way, really, you're still around? Don't you have some fraud to commit here? Some houses, some mansions to buy with people's money? Let's see. They burst into City's church mid-service chanting "Justice for Renee Good" and "ICE out," halting proceedings for 25 minutes. They targeted Pastor David Easterwood. They believe that he is the acting ICE field director in St. Paul. They're making association with him and ICE, which may or not be true. There may be a connection, there may not be. I don't know if that's even been confirmed yet. So this is obviously all after the Renee Good. They're using the Renee Good shooting to assault a peaceful gathering of Christians in church. And here's my question to these scumbags: would you do that in a mosque? The answer is no. Would you do it in a synagogue? These days, probably you would. But the fact that it was a Christian church, that these people are just taking that 1 hour out of the week to pray and to be still and to spend time with God in their community And you people thought that it was acceptable. Well, not only is it not acceptable, it's going to get you in big trouble. At least it better. Let me tell you, this would be the one thing that would sour me quite a bit on the Trump administration, the DOJ, all of them, if they do not file charges against these people. So here's, what is this, a picture? Yeah. So this is them in there shouting, just disrupting the service, terrifying. There's a picture, and I don't have it right now, but there's a picture of a small child being comforted by his father in terror. He's in tears. He's crying. He is absolutely frightened. And to think that this was an acceptable idea on so many levels, this was insanity. First of all, a lot of churches these days, a lot of people in the congregation, I'm not naming any names, but they're armed. And a lot of these churches, apparently not this one, I don't know, they have armed guards protecting them. So this could have turned deadly. This could have turned into something so much bigger than their little fist waving display and their antics. Now, let me go back to this idiot. And I'm sorry, guys. I try and have a little self-control here, but this guy makes me so furious. So first of all, he's a cowardly little liar, tiny little man. This is him before. This is what he had to say before.
Minneapolis a little bit ago, and did some reconnaissance on the ground, speaking to an organization there that's gearing up for resistance and protest. I've been pleasantly surprised to see the community coming together. Diverse community. If you see this, when we first pulled up, we're like, wait a minute, which operation are we at? And as it turns out, because we're like, well, this is kind of MAGA coded, right? So the American flag or whatever, but these are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up. And it's Sakima Armstrong, and she has been doing this since George Floyd, Dante Wright, and others, where they surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account. And so that's what we're doing here. And then after we do this operation, you'll see it live.
And let me show you what he had to say after when he was being called to getting arrested, really, for this, because and he said that he didn't know what was going on. Or he didn't know what they were going to do. Yeah. Clearly, guys, in that video, he knew exactly what was about to happen, where it was about to happen. So flat out lie. Here's what he had to say after the fact when he got scared of getting in trouble.
And the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true. I had no affiliation to that organization. I didn't even know they were going to this church until we followed them there. We were there chronicling protests. Once the protest started in the church, we did an act of journalism, which was report on it and talk to the people who were involved, which included the pastor, members of the church, and members of the organization.
Yeah, this jerk was not journalisming. Okay, that is not journalism.
Yeah, we call that revisionist history.
Exactly. And there's so many things in both of those videos that we could spend the entire rest of our hour just talking about all of the nonsense that he said. His MAGA coded because they were waving flags, that there was an American flag there. American flags are MAGA coded. Say that again.
And they were white.
And they were white. Yeah. So, and he went on in that video to talk about, he was so surprised and pleased to see the diversity there. Here's the part that is actually funny to me. There is talk about him potentially being charged with violating the KKK Act, which I didn't even know it existed. I didn't even know it was the thing, but it is a thing. So how much can I tell you what I love if he were to get charged under that act, because that would just be fun, because he is the biggest race baiter on the planet, forever crying, about supposed white supremacy and all of that nonsense.
While partnered with a white guy.
Yeah, like make sense. Like his poor husband, honestly, like I feel bad for his husband. Is he emotionally abused? That poor man must wake up every morning and does he have to get on his knees and do an apology for existing to Don there, just to stay married? I feel bad. Somebody check on that poor man, because
he tried to, he tried to say that this was well within their First Amendment rights as freedom of the press, and freedom to assemble, and all these other things, which is not true, folks. Houses of worship
are off limits.
They're protected sanctuary. You do not have, First Amendment rights to just go in there and disrupt if you so choose to. So he doesn't know the law. He's trying to hide behind the law. Maybe he wants to rewrite the law. I think this is a continuation of, the attempts to rid the nation of any Christian churches at all. And I think this falls into it, but he's not the only one. There's plenty of revisionists of the people that attended. I've seen at least 2 other people who have, there was a guy who had, his phone out the whole time, and he was walking between the rows, and he was chastising people, and he was yelling at them.
This guy, I've got him, Clay. I've got him. This lunatic. Yeah, here he is. You want everybody's blood's going to boil. This lunatic.
They're going to come at me with charges, and I'm not scared of that. There's no base for these charges. I did not block them from, their service. All these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You come here to a man wearing a suit as a preacher? Did Jesus wear a suit? They welcomed us in. They never asked us to leave. The police never came in and removed us. So we didn't stop their service. Jesus would die within it. You do not touch me. Touch me again and see what happens. Hey, you can't. You are a fake Christian. Why are you not standing with your Somali and Latino communities? Why do I not see you out at Whipple every day protesting this attack on humanity? Out now. Living real comfortable while the people starve.
I mean, absolute raging lunatic is what this guy is. And, here's the thing, though. I mean, where are the arrests? Where are the arrests? These people should be arrested. Why is this not happening? And, and I see this I made a video about it. I see this in the comments section the whole time, and everybody has got that. And we've talked about this in the past with all of the things that are going on. Like, there's so much talk. Well, we're investigating it. Well, we're looking into it. Well, we're talking about it. They're considering this. Freaking do it. Enough already. How much more evidence can you ask for? It's all right there, recorded, put on every social media platform. Like, there's no freaking question here. It just has to stop. And a strong message needs to be sent, because if you're trying to intimidate people from going to church. You think you're going to scare people, and you will. This will scare some of the more milder, gentler people from going to church, because they'll be afraid of what might happen or who might show up, and it's going to cause some other people to react in exactly the opposite way.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say, is that it will escalate. Like you said, everyone involved was very lucky that was not one of the churches where, as you stated, people either they have armed guards or members of the congregation carry and is endorsed by, the church leadership that, and that this didn't escalate to violence of another level. Make no mistake, this could have gone horribly wrong for everybody. And really, the entire church would have been demonized. They would have taken all of the blame for this, because that's how this works. That is actually probably someone in the leadership of that protest was probably hoping that this turned violent for that exact reason, so that they could use that against, the church, et cetera, and the members of the church, and use it for, forever in social media postings, for their quote unquote cause for good.
I think, besides Don Lemon being, and that guy being two of the most disgusting parts of that whole scene, the woman, I saw another video, I think with him talking with the woman that organized this particular one, and she referred to herself as a reverend. And let me tell you, lady, you are a disgrace. You are an abomination to the clergy, whatever it is that you claim to be a reverend of. I can't even imagine. But you have no business leading anyone in any type of religious, faith-based sense. You're disgusting. So.
And like everything else that's going on in Minnesota right now, as soon as these people identify themselves, the internet does what the internet does. Like that lady, I think, is the same person who people have now done research, right, including pulled her tax records. So she is paid a ridiculous amount of money as a leader in a charity organization. And when I say a ridiculous amount of money, I'm talking in excess of $150,000 to $200,000 a year to a charity organization that, based on their tax records, only donated or gave away less than her salary last year in donations. So they had enough.
What a surprise.
$200,000 and only gave away like $115,000 in donations, right? So she is now being investigated for levels of fraud associated with who she is and what she does. So, but I agree with you. That's great. And it's great that it becomes public knowledge, but there has got to be repercussions on the backside of this for her, for the guy in the beard, right? Yep. For Don Lemon. Right. They all need to be held accountable for their actions because, again, if they did this in a mosque or if this was done in reverse, right? In some form or fashion, there would be they would be demanding the same accountability, which isn't going on right now.
Right. Oh, they'd be losing their absolute lives. They'd be rioting right now. I mean, what else is new? It's forever riot season for them. Yeah, no, I'm super sick and tired of all of it. This was, in my mind, this was probably like a final straw. Like that's the one place you stay the heck out of.
Yeah.
Do not cross that line. And I can tell you right now, my church, we don't play. So
it's the way it's got to be nowadays, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's disgusting that that's the way it's got to be, but it does, and I hope I hope all Christian churches are really seriously taking note of this event and having those hard meetings right now before their next services, because if nothing happens from this, if there is no consequence to this, this will further embolden them to do it more and in more places. It's already bad enough that they're getting the attention for it that they wanted. Unfortunately, it's impossible for this not to be national news because both sides need to call it out for whatever their reasons are. You got your nefarious reasons because you think it's a great thing, and your righteous outrage reasons, which is why we're talking about it. So unfortunately, they do get their notoriety no matter what, but it will embolden more groups to do that. So the reaction has to be swift and internal. And there was a thing about the police not showing up in a timely manner. But, we're talking about Walls has told their police departments to stand down and not get involved. And they're complying with that. So
my question, though, is I know what Governor Walls says, and I don't really care, right? Every police department has its own legal and lawful responsibility to do what they're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. Somebody from Minnesota, please chime in the comments. Yeah. Are the Twin Cities one mayor or two mayors? I think there's still two mayors, right? Okay. We all know the mayor of Minneapolis is an idiot, right? He's been subpoenaed along with Governor Walls, right? That is all going to be under investigation. Yeah. We have not seen it move over to St. Paul until this incident. So we haven't seen or heard anything from their mayor, their police chief, or any of the folks in their, kind of chain. But I don't know. I assume that they are still separate two cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul. And that they don't share a mayor. But somebody from Minnesota, please, fill us in. I don't know how that works up there.
Yeah. Moves right into the next topic. Well, I stayed pretty calm. I actually managed to not swear.
Yeah.
I'm just impressed with that alone. Oh, let's talk about this. Now, what a surprise. I cannot believe how many times this place has been in the conversation, but here we are still again, over and over again, with more I guess the overview of the show could just be a study of hypocrisy. Right? It's the hypocrisy show. Let's talk about it. What a surprise. Did you see, I'll pull it up too, the picture of the citizens, the protesters now with whatever he had, some kind of long gun. I don't know what it was, some type of rifle I think he had on him. Just sitting there on the hood of his car, this is where we're at now. I mean, y'all are just taking this to the next level of stupid. Yeah. So go ahead, Clay. Go ahead. I just ran my mouth the whole time. Go ahead.
So, one of the perpetual arguments about the Second Amendment is, why is it there and what does it mean and what's the interpretation, right? Mm-hmm. So, habitual supporters of the Second Amendment, not conditional supporters, which we have right now. Habitual supporters of the Second Amendment will tell you that for personal protection, for protection of your family, your possessions, etc., that is one of the key components to why the Second Amendment exists. There is also the component of the well-regulated militia, the argument about quote unquote weapons of war, right? Should citizens have access to all of these things? And so the argument is about government overreach and danger to the average citizen by the government, which again, habitual supporters of the Second Amendment are the ones who argue for the ability for an average citizen to own things like AR-15s, right? You know, I know Walt's classified it as a weapon of war, right? And we'll get to him in a second. But that is one of the arguments about the Second Amendment. Should you be allowed to have weapons like that for your own protection? And those that don't habitually support the Second Amendment will tell you there's no reason to have those. The government is never going to overreach like that. You don't have to worry about them attacking regular civilians. Oh, by the way, they have tanks and airplanes. So what's a rifle like an AR-15 going to do? They'll make every excuse in the book for the average citizen not to be able to own one of those things. But yet here we are in Minneapolis, and what we have is anti-ICE, right? So anti-ICE, pro whatever you want to call them, protesters who are standing in the streets, open carrying AR-15s. Let me tell you, folks, these are not the habitual supporters of the Second Amendment, and this is it's people are doing it,
right?
And you've got Governor Walz, who has been habitually anti-gun when it comes to things like AR-15s, right? Remember everybody, I carried one of those in combat. No, you didn't. Right?
Yeah.
People don't need those. Yes, they do. He hasn't said a word. And I'm sure you're going to pull the picture up because you talked about it. And I know the guy that you're talking about.
Yep.
Right? If you've got it, pull it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I will. I'll put it in there. I'll have to put it in after.
So this guy says he is protecting his neighborhood against ICE. Okay. And I've seen, because folks, it's obvious I'm a gun guy. There's been a lot of analysis about this guy standing there, and I've seen everything from people saying it's an airsoft gun to people photoshopping the orange tip on the suppressor. Let me tell you something, folks. I've seen high resolution photos and some great analysis done by some folks. This guy is holding a very high end build of an AR-15. That guy is standing there. Now, listen, this guy couldn't fight for more than 3 minutes. He couldn't run 100 yards. He's not the guy you want protecting your neighborhood, but he's standing there with probably in excess of $4,000 worth of gun on the street corner because he is protecting his neighborhood from ICE. So for all of you anti-Second Amendment folks, please go fix that.
Right. Yeah. Where are you? Because you're awfully dead silent on this. You don't have a problem with that. You have a problem with
he didn't get a word from Governor Walz.
No,
he didn't get anything from anybody.
Nope. Suddenly guns aren't the problem, right?
Right. It's okay to have those when you're protecting yourself from the government, which I think is what everybody else has been saying for, decades about the Second Amendment. But now it's okay. Now
it's okay. In this specific circumstance, it's entirely okay. And we're not going to get mad about that. We're not going to clutch our pearls over it. Because this, for instance, is okay because it benefits us. It's what we believe in. It's defending our point and our position. And that is why these people are so freaking dangerous and horrible. They are literally the worst. They are so conditional on everything that they do, and they don't even see it. They don't see, or maybe they do. They just don't care. They just don't care. They don't care at all. It's just it's going to get worse. There is the shooting. Last week we talked about it on last week's show about Ms. Good. People are now on both sides of this discussion. You're going to see an increase in people carrying legally and illegally. People are going to be carrying. And, obviously that escalates the potential for violence. And so, this is one of those points in time where we need the police department to step in. We need the police chief to step in. We need the mayor to step in. But they're the ones who continue, especially the mayor. In fact, they had a little bit of a two-toned press conference this week where you had the mayor inflaming all kinds of stuff. And then you had the police chief that stepped in and tried to tamp things down. And there was a visual facial reaction by both of them as the other spoke. But clearly they're not in agreement here.
Governor Walz needs to step in. They need to make an example of this guy. If he really believes in this anti-2A, no one should own an AR-15, like nobody from the state of Minnesota is stepping out and saying, this is the wrong answer. But you're not seeing that because, like you said, it fits their narrative. It fits their purpose and their cause right now. And I'll be honest with you. Even as a gun guy, I have plenty of friends and relatives who are anti-2A and
Yeah.
anti, especially AR-15s. And I haven't seen a single person poke that guy and say,
Yeah.
this is the wrong answer. Nobody.
Right. Not a single one. No, and they won't. They won't. Again, it's whatever supports their narrative and their system of beliefs. That is, they'll turn a blind eye to their supposed convictions and their beliefs and their, that's the part that is so wild, isn't it? Like you can take the same person, literally, like basically you're saying the same person who was, a few weeks ago, shaking their fist and raging against, violence and guns and all of that when it comes to ICE agents and federal agents and just law enforcement in general. But when it comes to this, not a peep, and nothing to say about it. Or if they do, if you cornered them, they'd probably say, well, that's different.
Yeah,
that's different.
Exactly right.
It's totally different. It's not the same. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I like you said, Clay, this is a recipe for worse things to come. I agree with you. People will, who maybe are gun owners, but don't necessarily carry all the time. They will be carrying all the time now. I've watched so much of that footage of these absolute raging lunatics running up to, there was just one I watched today. A mob of them ran up to a car that was probably, I think it was just stopped at a stoplight, and they suspected that the people in the car were conservative. I don't know what made them think that, but they suspected that they were, and they started banging on the doors, opened the back seat passenger's door, and started kicking the person in there, and the people in the car just ended up like driving off, speeding off the moment they had a chance to. But this is what they're doing.
Don't do that to my car.
Don't even think about
really,
it.
Really bad idea.
It would be an extremely bad idea. But this is a recipe for extremely bad, tragic, senseless things to happen because the leadership in those cities and states are not doing their job. They're not putting the brakes on this. They're making it worse. They're using inflammatory language. They're inciting all of these things. And, again, somebody brought it up on social media, of course, where are the insurrection calls against Walls and Frey? How about that? You just basically told people to defy ICE and to fight back and do all of that. You caused this. So where are the charges? Where is my theme of the day? Where are the charges? I want to see them in handcuffs. Lock them up. Do it. I think it's a general consensus right now. Listen, changing gears completely.
But not really.
I know, not really, I guess.
More hypocrisy and more, where's the charges?
Oh, where are the charges? Come on, dude. So this guy, do I have some video for this guy? I thought I had some video for this guy. I'll put it up when I find it. Yeah, wow. So Timothy Busfield, actor, I remember some of like his older stuff. I knew who he was right away. He is married to Melissa Gilbert, Little House on the Prairie. Talk about tarnishing an image for permanently now with all of this. So another celebrity scandal exposes the industry's underbelly, this time a beloved, I don't know if he's a beloved actor, but facing the unthinkable. Timothy Busfield, who's 68, I don't know, he was 68. He's known for 30, that's the one I watched him in, 30 something. Yeah. That's the one I remember him from. And The West Wing, I think that's his most recent, or one of them. He surrendered January 13th in New Mexico on 2 counts of criminal sexual contact with a minor and 1 child abuse charge tied to alleged incidents with 11-year-old twins on the Cleaning Lady set, which was from 2022-2024. He denies it, calls the claims lies from vengeful parents after the boys firing. Oh, sorry, I can read that. Firing. He passed a lie detector test per his team. Let's see. He was released on January 20th, pending trial. He's got some other allegations in the past against him. One from a 16-year-old girl. He was never charged. So I don't know. And I suspect, as always, what happens with these things is more people will now come out of the woodwork saying, oh yeah, he assaulted me too. And I'm not making light of that. I'm not saying that it didn't happen by any means. I'm saying because there was so much abuse of that whole Me Too era, I think we all now kind of come in and go, well, we'll see. we'll see. I don't know if I believe it or not, which is kind of sad. Don't know if this is true or not. I don't know.
It's interesting for a couple of reasons. One, you're exactly right. The Me Too movement, which was we have to believe the victims, right? Now, we all know there's tons of evidence of pedophilia running through Hollywood. That's been going on for a while. There's plenty. If you don't believe that there's pedophilia in Hollywood, you're like, I don't know where you've been for the last 20 years, but
you're beyond naive.
All you have to know about is the two Corys,
Yes.
that's enough. But regardless of that, the Me Too movement was exactly that. We have to believe the victims first, right? And right now, that is not Hollywood's reaction to this. Maybe he's a nice guy. Don't care, right? The interesting part of the politics of Hollywood is that Melissa Gilbert, like you said, Little House on the Prairie, right? She was the president of SAG for a very long time, right?
Yes.
So a person of significant influence within the industry. And so that potentially bleeds into this as well. She supposedly played some sort of weird, or she had some sort of weird role in this. That I don't know. I don't know if it gives her any level of guilt, but it was repeated a number of times that she actually gave Christmas presents to these two kids while they worked with her husband. I don't think that's terribly uncommon. I think, actors working with each other, especially when they work with kids, those things happen. So I don't think that makes her guilty, and I don't think it really even adds to a level of guilt for him.
Right. It's only becomes a little sinister sounding after the fact. In light of the allegations. Otherwise, in any other circumstance, that would be just a kind of normal thing to happen. Now, of course, you look at it like, well, is she, part of grooming these kids or buying their silence or, who knows what? Honestly, I mean, unless there's, I'm a facts girl, unless there's concrete evidence, if they can, show that, then, so it's like one of those weird things, like on either end, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't, like, what a weird freaking world we live in. That
it is. And so, again, back to the Me Too thing, and I am facts-based with you. I really am. Like, I'm not crucifying this guy,
You're
but
even better about that than I am.
But and I'll do a comparative, right? If there is any inkling of child abuse, sexual abuse in the Catholic Church, people immediately assume guilt, because there is so much historical evidence of it that has come out in the last 30 years. Okay. If there was anything that came out about a Catholic priest or a nun or some leadership within a church, and some kid said, I was abused by so-and-so, everybody would assume that it is 100% true. My question is, why is the public reaction not the same for Hollywood when you do have that kind of evidence throughout the last 30 years that we now know that there's habitual and has been habitual sexual abuse of children? And why does everybody, including the people, friends of his, like Danny Masterson, I go to that one, right? Oof. Sexual assault, right? That guy's in jail forever. And he had coworkers who were like, oh, he's a great guy. I don't believe this for a second, and of course, dead wrong.
Dead wrong.
Like Timothy Busfield had the same thing. Like, we would all expect his wife, to defend him. Nobody would expect any different. But people he has worked with, oh no, I don't believe that for a second. They've made public statements. Like, I don't know how anybody in their right mind nowadays could come out that quickly and that definitively and say, not possible.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. You'd think, especially people in the public eye like that, you would think that they would want to be way more careful about, I guess, just about who they stand behind, who they. I mean, I certainly listen. If you feel that somebody through and through, and you are loyal to the core, and you want to defend, I think that's a great quality, to be that loyal to somebody. But common sense would kind of tell you, maybe
take a little pause,
right? Like, maybe you temper that statement with a little bit with
take a little pause.
Take that pause and think about that for a moment and say, listen, maybe a better statement, if you're one of these supporters, is to say, I love the person that I know him to be. If there is something that I don't know about, that is something I will have to address and come to terms with at a later time, but I can't make a statement on it. Like, you better hedge your comments there a little bit. Oof.
Yeah. So listen, folks, this is another one that we'll have to wait and see on. You know, the only reason we even brought it because of the oddity of the situation, but also like, where did Me Too go? Really, especially Hollywood, who was truthfully leading the Me Too charge, and now all of a sudden it has become a non-thing with regards to children, and that in and of itself is disturbing.
I think honestly, Clay, I think the that lukewarm reaction you get from them now has a lot to do with the unearthing or exposure of the widespread pedophilia that they're a part of. And I think that they just try and stay real quiet about it, hope it'll go away, and they don't want to call any attention to themselves, you know, because this has been now a very huge topic. It's been one of the biggest things that has turned the average American, at least on the conservative side, away from going to their movies, watching their shows. I know I don't watch any of them. I don't watch anything past a certain date for the most part, unless I know, you know, enough details about it. But
well, and you're starting to see a different reaction from Hollywood when it comes to politics. I mean, Mark Ruffalo just got canned the other day based on his conduct at the Golden Globes. I mean, that guy lost a $500 million contract because he doesn't know when to keep his mouth shut, you know, and to keep his politics out of his work, which Hollywood, again, is starting to see and realize the impact of these people on the box office, on their bottom line. And they're going back to, it seems like, business versus virtue signaling, you know, kind of when it gets down to the nuts and bolts of things. So, you know, Timothy Busfield, you know, folks, Elsa and I are not, you know, claiming this guy is guilty or having any knowledge of anything at all. We're just interested in how this case, you know, is a different reaction in Hollywood right now, which is, again, is disturbing. Yeah,
absolutely. So we'll see what happens with that. No matter what, you know, if those children are victims, to any victim, real legitimate victim out there, you know, our hearts go out to them, and what a terrible thing. Listen, Hollywood is no place for children. I'm so tired of and there have been some amazing adult child actors, namely, I don't remember his name, but he was the guy from Leave It to Beaver, I think. He was like the older brother who actually spearheaded an organization to help protect children, right? To help protect child actors, and give them some of the protections that they need in that industry. And I don't know what the heck happened to that and why they're not being protected as they should be. But, you know, one look at the large percentage of child stars that are now into adulthood. Let's start right on, you know, the first one that comes to everybody's mind is Britney Spears. But, you know, you look at all of them and how just traumatically this has affected them. This experience in life has affected them, and they just don't have the protections in place. And I'll even extend that to, by the way, even more of a Wild West, social media, you know, these social media families putting their kids, their personal lives all out on display like it's a reality show. And these kids don't consent to that. They're too young to consent to having their lives filmed. And I think there should be protections from them. Your kids don't belong on social media. I'm sorry. That's probably going to make some people, you know, offended and insulted. I don't really care. It is not healthy. It's not beneficial. Sure, it may put money in your pockets. It may generate an income for you, but is it in the best interest of your children's well-being? So, you know, just some food for thought.
No, and you know this, I'm super protective. It was the best piece of advice I got before I started publishing, you know, as an author, was protect your family. And that's what I do. So, and, you know, this is all part of it. So,
All right. We got a last thing to mention here. It's not really a segment, but we have a new segment idea, and we're going to need you guys for that. I'm a little nervous about it, to be honest with you. Stirring the pot, looking for trouble. So, you know, we've talked about the comment section many times in our wariness of it, but it's that double-edged sword. We need it. It helps us. It benefits us. I mean, I'm not going to call it anything other than what it is. Interaction and engagement is a huge part of helping a show, a content creator, a podcast, whatever the case is, to help them grow and build their platform. We need engagement for that. And I say that knowing full well that some of that engagement isn't always nice and friendly and full of hearts and flowers and love. Sometimes it is not that at all, as we talked about right at the top of the show, some of the comments. So nonetheless, we're thinking it might be a fun idea to close out the show with pulling up some comments, maybe one or a couple or a few, whatever the case is, comments from the previous week's show, and discussing it and responding to it, good or bad, whatever it is, good or bad. And I'll give you, do we have a minute? Yeah, we got a minute. So this one came in, there was a bunch, but this one came in, last week that I felt compelled to address, because it was my mouth. It was from my mouth that I did use the words basically. So if you can't read it, or if you're listening, the comment was, Nick Shirley did not, quote unquote, basically break the story of the Somali fraud racket single-handedly. The guy who did 7 years, 7 years, I think, of doing the research, found Nick Shirley and asked him if he could put it on his YouTube channel. They walked and drove around together as the guy gave him the 411 on each place they visited. So yes, so I'm addressing this one because I think it's a good correction of a misstatement that I made, and I am humble enough to admit when I misspoke. So I misspoke. I did not give credit due where it should have been. So I appreciate him calling me out. I don't think he needs to put the air quotes, around basically. I mean, you can leave the sarcasm out, dude. Just correct somebody nicely. How about that? But there it is. So there's just an example of that. We will have tons more, I'm sure. So who knows?
Things to remember, folks, we are not live. So there's like I said, where there's often comments asking who I am and why I'm on this show. But also there are people who are asking us questions, expecting an immediate response as if we're reading them, the comments, while the show is going on. This is pre-recorded and released. We know it says live on Facebook and it says live on YouTube, but this in 99% of the cases is not a live show. So, but this gives us an opportunity to answer some of your questions if you have them, to address some of your things like Elsa just did. But you're not going to get a live response, when you do this, because we record the day before and before the release. But also, please, I've been called, I think a goober was probably the I've been called. Elsa has been called some things. We're not going to address things like that. We're not going to. Elsa is not going to address why aren't you doing the Kamala Harris laugh anymore.
Right.
We are happy to do interaction and we encourage it and we love it. But let's do some good interaction, some quality stuff. If we make a mistake, call us out for it, and we'll admit to it, like Elsa just did. And I'm looking forward to this. I think this is going to be great. I look forward to the interaction with the listeners and the viewers. So
it's just a little forewarning too. If you don't want that to possibly be you coming up on the screen, just know that you could be up on that screen with us, and we might be talking about something you said, and we're never going to be terribly rude. I mean, we might be a little combative if the comment calls for it. I mean, it's all going to depend. So just know that if you comment, you may see your name up on this screen. So if you don't want that to happen, you know what to not do.
But I encourage you to do it, and maybe you'll become famous. You never can.
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, I gotta tell this because I think it's really funny. There was on TikTok, there was a comment section of a video, and the woman was talking about, she just commented. It was just the comment about 365 buttons. Have you heard anything about this? SNL actually did a skit on it. So this woman's comment went so viral. Like, there were so many responses to this comment, and it actually went viral. So it wasn't the video that went viral. It was the comment that this person left on there. So you never know. You could be the next SNL skit just from leaving a comment. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, you got to look it up. It's really,
never can tell, folks. Funny. Never can tell.
Never can tell. All right. Well, that's all I've got. Anything you want to tell them before we send them on their way?
No, folks. We're looking forward to this. We love the audience interaction, and the world's a crazy place. So be safe, make good decisions about you, your life, your family, etc. And for me, when in doubt, as always, keep moving, keep shooting.
I love it. Now more than ever. Jeez. All right, guys. Take care. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.
The headlines will change by tomorrow, but the patterns won't. Thanks for spending this time with us. We'll be back to keep asking the harder questions and telling the quieter truths. Until then, stay grounded, be discerning, and we'll see you next time.